NBC News confirms astronomer HR executive Kristen Cabot has resigned from the company. A company rep tells the outlet, "I can confirm that Kristen Cabot is no longer with Astronomer. She has resigned."
July 16th was supposed to be just another summer night in Boston. Coldplay fans were filing into Gillette Stadium, buzzing with anticipation, faces painted, phones out, waiting for Chris Martin's soft vocals to fill the air. But at 9:42 p.m., during a playful pause in the concert, the Kisscam rolled across the screen and everything changed. What was meant to be a throwaway crowd moment turned into something nobody could look away from.
I mean, the only thing more embarrassing and horrible than, finding out your spouse is cheating on you is finding out with the rest of the world. So it was brutal. I was cringing, and I can't believe I've now seen it 600 times.
In 15 seconds, two people in the crowd went from anonymous executives to the most talked about figures in the country. Not because of what they said, but because of what they did, and more importantly, how they reacted when they realized the whole stadium was watching. According to reports, that single camera shot set off a chain of resignations, personal implosions, and an internal corporate investigation that rocked a billion-dollar company. But the real story didn't unfold in that moment. It started long before, and it's still playing out now. From the outside, Andy Byron had it all. The now former CEO of Astronomer, he was known as a tech visionary with the kind of calm, polished demeanor that makes investors lean in. Beside him at the concert was Kristen Cabot, Astronomer's head of HR, technically the chief people officer, a role meant to embody values, integrity, and professionalism. But what happened that night sent the opposite message. The two were caught looking unusually cozy on the Jumbotron, an intimate moment that turned awkward fast. Chris Martin, perhaps sensing the tension, added gasoline to the fire with a quip. Either they're having an affair or they're just very shy. The crowd laughed. But insiders say Byron and Kit didn't. Their reactions were tense, panicked. That brief flicker of discomfort was all the internet needed. Because while it was just a second of eye contact and body language, the speculation it triggered was massive. And the worst part, according to company insiders, neither of them saw it coming.
Of a tech company, allegedly, you kind of went, whoa, doesn't really seem like he's the brightest crayon in the box, that he's out there in a box hugging up somebody who's not his wife.
Word is, the team at Astronomer knew within hours that this was going to be a problem. By the morning of July 17th, clips of the Kisscam moment had already gone viral, making the rounds on Reddit, TikTok, and Twitter. Reports suggest Byron and Kit were both immediately placed on administrative leave, while the board launched an internal investigation. By July 19th, Andy Byron had officially stepped down. Kristen Cabot stayed silent longer, but on July 24th, Astronomer issued a single-line statement confirming her resignation. No quotes, no comments, just gone. According to sources close to the situation, the speed of their exits wasn't just about the video. It was about the roles they held, the values they were expected to represent, and the massive funding round Astronomer had just closed. The company had raised nearly $100 million, and now its name was trending not for innovation, but for scandal. And as sources tell us, the real fallout hadn't even started yet.
This comes just days after Astronomer CEO Andy Byron stepped down in the wake of the controversy.
When the video first hit TikTok, it didn't have a flashy caption or hashtags. It was just raw footage, shaky camera, a Jumbotron shot, and two people flinching when they realized they were on screen. But sources say that's exactly why it hit so hard. The clip wasn't staged, wasn't filtered, and didn't look like damage control. It looked real, and that's rare. Within hours, the video exploded. According to public metrics, it crossed 100 million views in less than 3 days. Grace Springer, the fan who filmed it, wasn't trying to go viral. She was just excited to be at the concert and hoped to catch herself on the big screen. But what she captured instead was a moment that insiders now call the cringe herd round the world. When the camera landed on Andy Byron and Kristen Cabot, they didn't lean into the joke. They froze, and then they pulled away from each other. That body language did more damage than any statement could have undone.
Byron resigned from his position after two people believed to be him and Cabot were involved in a viral moment at a recent Coldplay concert that led to allegations he was having an affair. 3 days after the July 16th concert in Foxborough, Massachusetts, Astronomer released another statement on behalf of the company announcing that its board of directors had launched a formal investigation into the matter and would have additional details to share very shortly.
Grace says she didn't think twice about posting it. "I love to capture moments," she told reporters, "so that's why my phone was out in the first place." She wasn't an employee, wasn't affiliated with the company, and didn't know who they were until the internet told her. But according to social media analysts, her video hit a nerve because it flipped the script. This time, it wasn't a leak or a tabloid scoop, it was a regular person catching two powerful people acting like they had something to hide. Word is, that made people care more. Grace says she felt sympathy afterward, especially for the families involved. "I feel bad for Andy's wife and Kristen's family," she admitted. But she's also pointed out that it wasn't a private moment. They were on the stadium screen in front of thousands. Someone was going to post it. And sources agree. It wasn't just what was seen, it was how it looked. They weren't acting like colleagues. They were acting like people with something to lose. Insiders reveal that once the clip spread, astronomers' internal Slack channels went into quiet lockdown. Employees were told not to comment publicly, and HR protocols were triggered within 24 hours. But sources inside the company say the real tension came from the roles involved.
The company later said in a July 18th statement on X, "Astronomer is committed to the values and culture that have guided us since our founding. Our leaders are expected to set the standard in both conduct and accountability."
A CEO and an HR head being publicly intimate? That's not just embarrassing, it's potentially a compliance nightmare. According to employment experts quoted in multiple outlets, the power dynamic itself raises red flags, especially given Kristen Cabot's position overseeing workplace conduct. It wasn't just a bad look, it could expose the company to legal risk. Reports suggest the board acted quickly, not because they wanted to, but because they had no choice. With nearly $100 million recently raised and clients watching closely, silence wasn't an option. The company needed to protect its brand, and sources close to the situation say that behind closed doors, both resignations were heavily encouraged, even if they appeared voluntary. Sources close to the situation say Kristen Cabot knew her resignation was coming the moment the video went viral, not because of pressure from the public, but because of what insiders call untenable optics. As chief people officer, she was expected to enforce company values, and yet, within 72 hours, the image of her sitting shoulder to shoulder with her married boss was splashed across every major news outlet. When photos later surfaced of her outside her New Hampshire home with no wedding ring, the internet lit up again. According to reports, the sight of her alone, ringless, and silent added fuel to already swirling rumors. Some speculated her marriage was in trouble long before the concert. Others claimed the ring's absence was her quiet response to the world. Either way, insiders confirmed that public silence wasn't accidental, it was strategic. The goal, sources say, was to avoid lawsuits, limit liability, and let the scandal burn out without adding more fire. Meanwhile, things were unraveling fast behind the scenes. According to neighbors in Northborough, Massachusetts, Andy Byron's wife, Megan Carry-On Byron, left the family's multi-million-dollar home shortly after the video dropped. She reportedly retreated to a sprawling estate in Kennebunk, Maine, worth over $2 million. Word is, she's since removed her husband's last name from all social media accounts and has not returned to their shared residence. Friends and family were seen visiting her throughout the week, but no public statements have been made. Sources suggest that while there haven't been any official divorce filings yet, the emotional distance is impossible to miss. Insiders say Megan was blindsided, finding out not from a private confession, but from the same video the rest of the world saw. And that, according to those close to the family, has made this much harder to forgive. The betrayal wasn't just personal, one source said. It was public. Everyone saw it. As for Kristen's husband, Andrew Kitt, co-founder of Privateer Rum, he was reportedly in Japan on business when the scandal broke. According to insiders, the couple had been discussing separation even before the Coldplay concert, but no legal action had been taken. Still, sources claim the timing couldn't have been worse. Kristen's resignation, Andrew's absence, and the viral scrutiny created what one insider described as a perfect storm of humiliation. While neither couple has spoken to the press, every move they make has been dissected online. Even the way Kristen watered her plants outside, dressed in pink athletic wear, became tabloid fodder. Analysts say it's a reflection of our new reality. When you go viral, your silence can be louder than any statement. And in this case, the silence speaks volumes. Industry observers are calling it a textbook example of how quickly a public image can collapse, and how private decisions, once made visible, don't stay private for long. After the dust started to settle publicly, astronomers scrambled to regain control. The company didn't just lose its CEO and head of HR, it lost the polished image it had spent years crafting. According to company insiders, Pete DeJoy, one of Astronomer's co-founders, stepped in almost immediately as interim CEO. In an internal memo, later shared with media, he described the coverage as surreal, but admitted the obvious. The scandal made Astronomer a household name. Not for the right reasons, but the name was now out there. Word is that memo was just as much for investors as it was for staff. Astronomer had just closed a $98 million funding round. Now, that future looked shaky. Sources say investor calls turned tense overnight. Potential partners began asking questions about internal culture, chain of command, and HR integrity. It's hard to sell data solutions when your own leadership looks compromised, one industry analyst told us. And while the company tried to pivot back to business, the internet refused to move on. Social media turned every clip, every photo, every silence into a new meme or theory. According to digital media experts, this wasn't just a case of bad PR, it was a reputational implosion with no clear off-ramp. Reports indicate that Astronomer even considered legal recourse against certain online outlets for speculation that crossed into defamation. But sources say the risk of drawing more attention kept their lawyers in wait-and-see mode. Instead, the company focused on internal damage control. Team leads were instructed to reaffirm HR protocols, review policies on workplace relationships, and assure clients that trust was still intact. But insiders say staff morale took a major hit. It's hard to enforce boundaries, one employee reportedly said, when the people who created them just broke them on camera. And then came the unexpected twist. According to multiple reports, Andy Byron personally reached out to Grace Springer, the fan who uploaded the viral video. At first, some thought it was an apology, but sources familiar with the exchange claim it was more of a confrontation. Word is, Byron accused her of ruining his career, his marriage, and his reputation with one upload. The tone, according to insiders, was defensive, not remorseful. Grace, who had remained largely respectful in interviews, reportedly felt threatened by the message and considered going public with it. Media experts say this moment revealed something deeper. Byron wasn't just humiliated, he was furious. And that rage wasn't directed at himself or the company, but at the fan who recorded him. Industry observers noted that this kind of reaction shows just how fragile executive ego can be when faced with organic public accountability. In an age where optics are everything, one 15-second clip turned out to be more powerful than 1,000 perfectly crafted press releases. In just 10 days, a 15-second Kisscam moment reshaped careers, families, and a billion-dollar brand. Andy Byron and Kristen Cabot, two names once only known within Silicon Valley circles, became shorthand for workplace scandal in the social media age. According to insiders, the fallout isn't over. While both executives resigned quietly, sources say non-disclosure agreements and exit settlements are likely involved, meaning we may never hear their side of the story directly, but their absence speaks volumes. Industry sources confirm that Astronomer's board has begun a full culture audit and is now working with an external crisis PR firm to rehabilitate its image. And while the company has returned to business as usual on the surface, word is investor confidence remains shaken. One tech advisor told us bluntly, "In this market, reputation moves faster than revenue, and right now, Astronomer is still playing catch-up with its own brand." Meanwhile, the families left behind are navigating their own aftermath. Sources say Meghan Carry-On Byron remains in Maine, maintaining distance from her husband and refusing press inquiries. Kristen Cabot has avoided interviews entirely. And although no official divorce filings have surfaced, reports suggest that both couples are reevaluating everything. Neighbors, friends, even former colleagues have all weighed in privately, many expressing sympathy not just for the betrayed spouses, but for the children caught in the crossfire. One family friend reportedly said, "This isn't just about two people, it's about the lives tethered to them." It's the part the internet often forgets. Viral stories don't just go away when the memes stop. Real people live through the wreckage. And according to those closest, that's what hurts the most. Not the exposure, not even the humiliation, but the permanent damage to trust. So what does this scandal tell us? Maybe it's that no one is untouchable. Not anymore. The old days of hiding behind PR walls and boardroom silence are over. One fan with a phone changed everything. And that's the part that still stings for Byron and Kit. According to media consultants, the reason this story struck such a chord is because it reminded people of something we all feel. Exhaustion with powerful people breaking their own rules and expecting silence in return. This wasn't just a mistake, it was hypocrisy in high definition. A CEO and an HR executive, responsible for policies they didn't follow, caught slipping in front of 60,000 fans and millions more online. There's no official redemption arc yet. No comeback announcement, just two vacant roles, a company rebuilding, and an industry still whispering. What happens next? Sources say we'll find out soon enough, because in today's world, nothing stays buried for long, and once the internet catches you flinching, it never forgets.